Hello everyone and welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for February 4th of 2024, and currently we have a high risk for southern coastal regions of California, including the Los Angeles Metroplex area. This is going to be the primary thing that we are going to be covering in today's forecast, and this high risk does mean at least a 70% chance of flash flooding within the region, meaning that we may be able to see some widespread significant flash flooding, as well as the possibility of it may be catastrophic across this region, because it does include the Los Angeles Metroplex area. We also do have a moderate threat for flash flooding that does extend further north along the coast upwards of the San Francisco Bay. So we may be able to see some widespread flash flooding, with some areas potentially seeing significant flash flooding as far north as the San Francisco Bay. We also do have two other marginal threats for Southern California, or Southern Florida and Southern Georgia into the Florida Panhandle. However, the storms associated with this have moved out of the region, so we will not be covering this in today's forecast. For tomorrow, we also have another high risk, including this Los Angeles region again, because we are going to continue to see rainfall into tomorrow for that region of concern. So we do have another high risk for that area for tomorrow. Taking a look at our winter weather outlooks while we're on our WBC outlooks, for today we do have the risk of quite a bit of heavy snowfall for the California region, as a lot of those rainfalls that may be associated with that atmospheric river, as it moves into higher terrain, into a much colder environment across the Rockies, that is going to turn into snow across some of the much higher terrain further inland in California. So again, we may be able to see quite a bit of heavy snow for some more inland regions of California and even into the Rockies. Taking a look at our SPC outlooks and the risk for severe thunderstorms across the U.S., as of right now, we do have a marginal threat for a small coastal region just to the south of the San Francisco Bay for California. We aren't really expected to see all that much of a risk for severe thunderstorms, but we may be able to see some isolated severe thunderstorms with some of the rain showers that we may see today. Threats for that do include a 2% tornado risk and a 5% wind risk, but not really all that much of a hail risk. So we may be able to see the possibility of a weak tornado or two, or potentially some isolated damaging wind gusts. And then we also do have two separate marginal threats for southern Georgia into northern Florida, as well as southern Florida. This is associated with a line of storms that did blow across the Florida peninsula. However, those storms have since moved out of the region, so those aren't really a concern, and we will not be covering these in today's forecast. For tomorrow, though, we do have a marginal threat for southern Florida, where we may not see all that much of the possibility of tornadoes, but we will see the possibility of some isolated damaging wind gusts and the possibility of some isolated large hail. Taking a look at our weather model, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do, focusing on the high-risk region, take a look at how perpendicular our 500 millibar jet streak and our isobars associated with this trough is expected to be to our coastline in our region of concern. Because of how perpendicular this 500 millibar jet streak is expected to be, that means that the cold front is expected to be perfectly perpendicular to the coastline. And is expected to flow northward into the region of concern. And the rate at which this cold front is going to move is going to depend on how quickly our low pressure system is expected to move. And our low pressure system is expected to be very slow moving over the next couple of hours. So that means that our cold front associated with our rainfall for today is expected to be very slow moving as well. And that is going to lead to almost constant rainfall. I'm pretty sure we are expected to see rainfall for the entire day across the high-risk region, potentially a very good portion of tomorrow as well, because of how slow moving this cold front is expected to be. And as that train of rain showers moves into the region, that is going to accumulate and run off the higher terrain, and potentially lead to, again, potentially very significant flash flooding for the Los Angeles region. Then we can also briefly touch on the possibility of tornadoes across this region and our severe thunderstorms, just very briefly. We are expected to see that 500 millibar jet streak potentially reach upwards of 116 miles per hour, which is going to be quite strong, and that you can see very prominent veering of the wind. So we are expected to see very ample directional shear for tornadoes. Taking a look at our total precipitation and how much rainfall we are expected to see across this region, mainly focusing on the high-risk region, you can see that we may be able to see rainfall totals that may get upwards of 9 inches, potentially up to 10 inches in some regions, as some models were indicating earlier. I know that some models, a couple model runs back, they were indicating upwards of 12 inches of rainfall across this region. So anywhere from 9 to 12 inches of rainfall we are expected to see across the high risk region, including the Los Angeles downtown region, which again is going to be in a very bad spot for flash flooding for today, and again maybe potentially significant to catastrophic, but let's take into account the terrain here. We do have a lot of mountainous terrain further back towards western regions of California, eastern regions of California further inland, with Los Angeles being somewhere around here. As rain does fall across the region, and across higher terrain, a lot of the rain that is going to accumulate across the higher terrain is going to run further off to the west, and down into the flatter terrain in the lower areas off the mountains towards the Los Angeles region and the high risk area. So as that rain runs off into the Los Angeles metroplex area, that is going to potentially accumulate in a lot of low-lying areas, potentially getting very high in some regions, as well as potentially wash out any infrastructure. So we will have to watch out for the possibility of infrastructure being washed away by rainfall, as well as large amounts of accumulation in low-lying areas. Taking a look at our energy helicity index readings, just so we can get an idea of what our tornado risk may look like. I'm not going to show the different parameters that are going to contribute to this, but I did check them earlier. We are expected to see a very large amount of directional shear with that 500 millibar jet streak, but we are expected to see a very small amount of instability. So with that very small amount of instability, we aren't really expected to see a whole lot of a risk for tornadoes, but with that amount of directional shear and the very low end amount of instability, we may be able to see the possibility of a weak tornado or two that may be very brief across coastal regions of California. Again, the risk for tornadoes is very, very low for today, and energy helicity index does back that up with very spotty low end energy helicity index values. Again, we do have the possibility for a tornado that may be weak across this region, but it isn't really expected. Taking a look at our wind gust models and the potential for some damaging wind gusts across this region, you can see along the coast we are expected to have potentially very strong damaging wind gusts that may be able to reach upwards of 60 to potentially 70 miles per hour. Models indicate off the chart damaging wind gusts, but our chart doesn't go very high. It only goes up to around 68.9 miles per hour. We are expected to see potentially a stronger damaging wind gusts than what models are indicating, because it does go off the charts a little bit. And we do have multiple high wind warnings along the coast here. So again, we are expected to be watching for the possibility of some potentially strong damaging wind gusts along the coast. So definitely make sure you're watching for that and securing any loose unsecured objects that may be able to blow around if you want to keep them, that may be outside. But overall, the risk for damaging winds with severe thunderstorms is so low because outside of the damaging wind risk that we may have with the system overall, storms are expected to lead to potentially more isolated damaging wind gusts and aren't really expected to be too significant as far as damaging winds, but widespread with the system as a whole, we could potentially see damaging wind gusts that may reach upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour. Before I end the video, I do want to talk about the GoFundMe that we have for Project Gladiator real quick. The GoFundMe is to fund the creation of a absolutely insanely powerful tornado intercept vehicle that will be able to gather information from some of the strongest tornadoes, potentially upwards of EF5 in strength, which will gather information about some of the most violent tornadoes and lead to breakthroughs in meteorological technology. So if you do want to donate to the cause, the link to the GoFundMe is in the description. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. If you live in any of the areas, definitely make sure you are staying weather alert. If you notice anything may have been wrong with this forecast, or would like to make a suggestion or ask a question, please leave a comment and I do reply to them. Two other channels I highly suggest you check out are One Nation Weather and Weather Watcher. The links to their channels will be in the description. Weather Watcher does do forecasts for Europe if you are interested in those, and hopefully I'll be able to see you guys later today with a weekly overlook.